Welcome everybody to a very special edition of Protection Review TV. Today is the 10th of December, it's the day after the Protection Review Conference and Awards, which went out online on the 9th of December. And in this special video, I'm joined by Vincent Lepez from Pacific Life Re, and we're going to discuss Vincent's reactions to what he saw at the Protection Review Conference and Awards. So Vincent, welcome to this video. How are you?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very good. It is a real pleasure to be with you today.
Can I start, Vincent, by asking you to give us a little bit of background about yourself, where you came from, how your career developed, and what you're currently doing at Pacific Life Re?
So I joined Pacific Life Re just a bit more than 4 months ago. Actually, in terms of background, I would describe myself as a life insurance guy. In the first place, I started my career as an actuary probably 15 years ago, working for the French Social Security, and then gradually moved to the private insurance with AXA. And lately, I spent 8 years with SCOR, having different roles ranging from a global chief pricing actuary and probably closer to where we are, having more business-oriented functions in Asia and being lately head of markets for Latin America, continental Europe, and Asia. And here with Pacific Life Re, I am the managing director for the Europe business unit, which covers both protection and longevity.
This was the first time we've had to do the conference and awards in an online environment. What did you think of the show, I guess you would call it?
I think it was brilliant. I attended, over the last few months, I attended quite a few remote conferences, as you can imagine. I really loved the blend of actually videos pre-recorded and then the remote panel. And in between all the awards, by the way, congratulations to all the award winners. It was really enjoyable. A lot of content to discuss about, really rich interactions between the panelists. So yeah, really congratulations for that. That was a great morning.
Thanks very much. Would you say there was one standout message that you got from the conference overall, from the speakers or from the panel debates?
The first one I got from the first series about personalizations of protection is really the sense of urgency around making sure that we have products that would be accessible, tailored, and really meaningful for the policyholders. And when I say policyholders, I think I'm really thinking about everyone. Mm-hmm. I think embedded is that in that message there was also the feeling that we should make life insurance much more accessible to a broader spectrum of people. So yeah, alongside personalization is really making protection products more appealing, and in particular, bringing much more people into our insurance products in order to reduce the protection gap.
Is personalization really a whole suite of different types of products, or is it actually the marketing message or the wrappers or the communications that go alongside those products? And thinking about personalization, one of the issues that came up in the panel was, would this lead us down a route where we might overcomplicate things for the end customer and even overcomplicate things for the financial advisor? Is personalization possible without overly complicating it?
So that's a very hard nut to crack, to be honest. I think it is. I wish it is, obviously. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this job. The tricky thing is to remain accessible to people, especially as we want to broaden the horizon of people being covered by products, because there is an absolute need of reducing the protection gap. So keeping things understandable is absolutely key. And it doesn't need to be completely simple to be understandable. There is very much a dimension of training and financial understanding of the need for people to get access to this sort of product. So there's obviously several dimensions to making our products accessible. You talked about marketing and then conveying the right message to people so that they understand really what they are buying or what us as an insurance industry, we are providing in terms of service. And there's the product design itself. I do believe personally that there would be a way to have products with a core mechanism that would be common to everyone, and then with tailored options would probably be the right option in order to make our products more accessible. The key difficulty is then having our customers understand what would be the right customization for them. So what is the sequence, the series of options that would be relevant to them? In that regard, there is probably one component here that I would have loved to see discussed in the debate, which is the usage of data. It is very clear that in order for people to have products that would be tailored, we need to understand what is their need. And currently, it is very much the role of IFAs to understand the need and then as a consequence to propose the right product to people. If we want to simplify the conversation, it means that we need to retrieve this information as an industry in a simpler way. But that means collecting data and having people ready to share this data so that they can help us tailor the products for them.
These days, data is much more readily available. I think back in the past, the financial services industries perhaps suffered from a lack of data, but now we're absolutely swimming in it. So how can we use data to ensure that we remain customer focused?
This is also a big question. And immediately what comes to mind is data privacy. I'm a big believer personally that the customers are the owners of their data. And our role is actually showing them that there is value and that we can really create value in having them sharing their data with us so that we can automate the customization of products and then enter in a dimension where our products are not only paying a lump sum or an annuity whether certain events occur, but really our products would rather automatically adapt to the intrinsic risk of people. These people actually have a life that changes, their health status changes, their family model changes. These are data that today we can probably retrieve, obviously with the consent of people, and then automate, adjust automatically the way we could personalize and really, in the end, build an offer that would be fit for the individuals without them having the feeling that they are entering into a tedious process of just disclosing tons and tons of things to their insurer, which is always the pain point.
This year, everybody in the world has faced difficulties because of the COVID pandemic, and the insurance industry, the protection industry in the UK had to react just like all industries did. And it's quite interesting that in the past it's often taken us years to develop new products. You know, I can remember IT projects taking 18 months to 2 years to develop new systems and new processes, and yet as an industry we've effectively been forced to do it in record time, you know, literally in weeks in some cases. What would you say was the biggest lesson that the protection industry needs to learn or can take from the COVID crisis we've faced?
There's, to me, again, an urgency in a way for us as an industry to be leveraging this huge crisis that we've been through and the huge pain that families have been through, that the country has been through in terms of economic consequences, to actually show the importance of protection. It is probably a question of resilience. It is, if any, the right moment to show how important it is to be covered in order to make sure that if something bad happens to you, whether it's through a pandemic that make actually life risks and health risk much more visible than they usually are, it shows really the value of the service that we provide. So as an industry, we should not miss that train in a way of, I don't like that word, but it is taking advantage of what happened in order to promote the strong value and the strong societal value of the service that we bring to people.
Yeah, it's a very fine line to tread, isn't it? Because it is an opportunity, because unfortunately some families have faced tragedy, but it is a time when it will be at the forefront of people's minds. As we moved into the second part of the conference, we were talking about social care, and Damien Green, the MP, was one of the people who was speaking, and his view is that the public actually feel that social care is free and that they've paid for it throughout a lifetime of taxation, which isn't actually the case. And within the industry, we've had a go at creating long-term care type of products in the past. Some of them were immensely complicated unit-linked bonds with deductions of units and this, that and the other. Some were more monthly orientated payment plans, but they've always been quite expensive. So if it is, and Damien did say, maybe the onus is on the industry to start developing more products that can help in this regard, how do we, again, create a product which meets this need but isn't going to be so expensive that nobody can actually afford it?
Yeah, it is a massive problem. And interestingly, we are talking here about risk related to the elderly, and it is, for our industry, a completely new challenge. It is a risk that actually started emerging, 40 years ago? We've been building mortality tables for more than 200 years. But we're just starting discovering actually the overall, let's call that the long-term care risk, or the risk of the elderly living their life in a way that wouldn't be suitable, appropriate, or with enough dignity in a way. It is actually a risk that is far more complicated than mortality and CI, because it is a multi-step type of risk, and we don't have a lot of data actually to really understand first the stepping phases of this risk and how the various transitions in the steps of long-term care, how they evolve through time. And they do evolve, right? Because there's a strong longevity component in long-term care risk, and as a consequence, all these various steps and the transitions between these steps do evolve with time as well. And it takes a lot of data to get a good understanding and to get a good actuarial approach for these products. So it's been probably 40 years in the world that we've been seeing the first attempts to build up suitable products. The first attempts were probably in the US. And Jules actually mentioned very interesting examples in Singapore and Germany, but there are other markets that have had very interesting attempts in that regard. For the time being, it is my own belief that no country, no market managed to actually design products that would make sense and that would be resilient, that would be sustainable enough to create good conditions for the development of such a market on long-term care. There were a lot of very interesting comments that were made on what are the conditions actually for a market to emerge. One of them, to me, is the political factor that brings the awareness to people. So that was mentioned many times, and there was an absolute consensus between both the speakers on the video and the panelists that the political awareness and the political message and the decisions would be the starting point. I fully agree with this. If you take a look at the various markets in the world where there is a meaningful LTC market, it always starts with a political stance on what we should do in order to support social care for the elderly. One of the markets where actually the private long-term care is the most developed is actually France.
Right.
And that was really on the back of the first attempt in order to build up social products so supported by social security. And then on the back of these social security products, there would be definitely quite a lot of space for the private market to provide complementary products, complementary but absolutely necessary, because the level of coverage of the social security for this social care for the elderly was definitely not enough. And this is, by the way, what we see also in Germany, in Israel, in Singapore, in some of the countries that were mentioned.
And do you think that Pacific Life Re might use some of those lessons from France and try to bring some of those ideas to the United Kingdom?
As reinsurers, as insurers, we do have a role. Some reinsurers already invested significantly in understanding more about the aging process, all the new diseases, all the disabilities that can occur with high ages. We need to be researching more on this. There is a lot of this research that is actually publicly available. I do believe that there is a huge role of the academic world in that respect as well. And we need to engage with the academic world, medical science, actuarial science, in order to understand better the risks and how it develops. And it is with our traditional technical approach to insurance, it is with this level of understanding of the risk that we will be able to build products that would make sense.
Yeah, it's a really tough one, isn't it? It's a really tough one. And perhaps more than ever, it's not just top down from the top of life insurance companies, reinsurance companies. It's top down, as you say, from the government and a collaboration with all sorts of different institutions. Vincent, that's been a fascinating discussion this morning, and we could probably sit here and talk for even longer. But just to conclude, what would be the one thing you'd like to see happen in the protection industry? Now, it could be something to do with personalisation, or it could be something to do with social care. But if you want to think of it in a wider context, then that's fine. So what's your one wish for the protection industry?
My one wish for the protection industry is to see it transform through the right usage of data. And this would be definitely relevant, as we discussed, for personalization of products. That is also relevant for social care, and then building products actually that would make sense also for the elderly, because even our senior ones, they are also looking for simplicity. They are looking for products that are just peace of mind to them, so they don't have to enter into endless discussions with their advisors in order to get the right level of protection for their old days and the future disease that can happen to them. So that's relevant in both categories.
Vincent, thank you so much again for coming onto Protection Review TV today, and hopefully sometime in the future we'll be able to get together and actually have a discussion like this over a coffee or a beer rather than over Zoom.
It would be my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.